Hello. I'm Camto, your storyteller, and today we're talking about how players can turn failure into success. This campaign is all about how players have found their way into awful situations and turning it into a more successful role-playing experience for both the DM and their fellow players. This story takes place in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition inside of their pre-made campaign, Storm King's Thunder. You will see me look at this book. It's mainly to keep track of where the players were. And if you are planning on playing this, there will be plot spoilers for everything up until the end of the first chapter. So I believe that is up until page 35. So if you've not made it to that point yet, you may skip this one and find another video in the series that isn't spoilers. So with that, on with the show. To give a backstory on the player group, we had 6 players. We have a ranger, a warlock, cleric, 2 rogues, and who am I forgetting here? A warrior. Or fighter in this case. Yes, it would be a fighter in 5th edition. And the 6 of them are traveling to a town called Nightstone. The group is all traveling inside of one large carriage that is taking them to town. They all hired it for one of many different player reasons. But the problem is, one of the players, the warlock, is cursed with unimaginable stench. And this is because he was cursed by a demon who loved him so much, but being a ladies' man, cursed him to become a warlock and to serve her. But the problem is, he doesn't want to, so he's running away. They're all in the carriage together, and the smell is so awful that one of the players broke the glass to release the foul stench and allow them to breathe. But the dwarf carriage driver was not happy, dropping them off on the side of the road and just turning around and leaving them. So because of that, they arrived to Nightstone late. By doing so, they were saved from the attack that happened to this town. Nightstone itself is a town noted for a large stone that appeared in the center of the city, like a large obsidian tower, almost as large as like 2 medium-sized players. And it would sit in the middle of town, and then the town was built around it, kind of like a figure 8, with a large keep and then a small keep with or a small town center underneath. I'll probably put some images so you can kind of see how the town looks. So the players arrived to this town with stones littered all across, the gate open, buildings destroyed, and wargs all over the place. And wargs, I believe, I think they're either wargs or like goblin dogs. I think they're goblin dogs. See, I'm already referring to the book, so I have the right information here. A2. 2 seconds in. Oh, that's a tower. No. 3. Nah. Should have taken notes, but wargs. Yes, they were wargs. I was right. Ha. So there's wargs in this town, and not everybody is combat proficient. And so it's a bunch of people walking in. There's 2 large dogs. And these dogs, unless you're an actual adventurer or someone who fights, you don't want to be on their bad side. And so the players stop. They're like, what's going on? What do we do? And everybody's like not like really buddy-buddy yet. They're all kind of like got their own motives. They're starting to build their own characters. And that's a lot of times you see in groups. They're all kind of like, they have an idea of how the character's going to play out. Some characters are going to be more defensive. Some players are going to be more, the roguish, like, always having his hat down. Oh, yep, I'm going to be fighting them guys right over here. I don't know what that was. But anyways, yeah, everybody has their own kind of idea of how the player's going to be. Some players are more experienced. Some players are playing for the first time, including our ranger. Our ranger being my girlfriend. She's never played or role-played before. She's a very shy and timid person. So, funny enough, the first thing she goes is she leans over to me. She's like, I want to try to be friends with one of the dogs. And I'm like, okay. So, like, your character approaches slowly. She goes up. She's going to go kind of like pet him. Doesn't roll so well. So she immediately tries to handle animal, fails. And she's like, oh no, no animals do that to me. So she pulls out her scythes. And she's a halfling. So she pulls out these scythes. She's like, I'm coming after him. First thing the warg does is backhands her, throws her across the town square, knocks her out. The rest of the group's like, well, we can't leave her there. And our cleric, who is a dragonid cleric, goes, I have to help her. That is one of my duties as a cleric. I must help everybody in need. She just became in need. So they go in, they fight these wargs, and the battle goes all right. They're able to get her up. She knocked unconscious, not dead, but she kind of goes unconscious for a round. Gets back up, gets mad, tries to keep fighting him, but she just doesn't hit. So she's like scrapping around, and then you have our two rogues who are, stabbing and all that stuff. Then you got our warrior, and then our warlock, who's just kind of over there with the crossbow, just shooting basic combat. Usually in these D&D campaigns, it's always the first fight being goblins, wargs, something small, something easy to fight. And they didn't have too much trouble, but they had just enough that it took a couple of rounds. So they kind of get their breath together, and they're like, wait a minute, hold on. So the town's empty, there's wargs here, what's going on? So the group actually takes a moment to breathe in and look around at the surroundings, and noticing that the inn's destroyed, there's rocks everywhere, and the town's nightstone, its namesake, is gone. Which is really odd. So they're like, so something happened here. We don't know what happened, but we're going to get down to the bottom of it. And this is kind of the downside to the beginning of this campaign, in my opinion, is that the characters are given too much free reign to kind of figure something out. Usually want to be more direct, kind of where players go in some of these campaigns, especially with pre-made campaigns, just based on experience of different players. So I kind of let them do their own thing, and it took a while, but they kind of moved from house to house, kind of searching, looking for clues, noticing that there isn't anybody there, and running into goblins in different kind of groups and situations. Not too many stood out at first, but then the group decided to do the first thing you're never supposed to do in any sort of role-playing game, and they split the party. And by splitting the party, one group went to the graveyard, and one group went to, I believe it's a trade shop, or kind of a general store. And the group that went up to the graveyard fought a couple of goblins inside of the graveyard, and one of them tried to get inside of the mausoleum. Now, the mausoleum is booby-trapped for players who are a little too adventurous. It's kind of a way to teach them, and it's not every neat thing needs to be explored, and if you do, sometimes you're punished. And the group kind of open up the thing, and a giant spirit, I believe it's a spirit of one of the ancestors, pops out and attacks the party. And they're like, well, that was not a good idea. It's a specter. It's a specter, so it's a decent sized thing. So they're like, oh, we're going to try to fight this. And they're like, wait, it's a specter, it's a ghost, we probably shouldn't. So they, close everything up, bolt it, goes back to being at rest, whatever. And they're like, well, that was a bad idea. Well, they're dealing with the specter at the same time. The ranger and the warlock go down to the general store, fight a couple of named goblins, and find the entire store empty. By doing so, they just start pickpocketing everything they can. They're grabbing bottles. I think the warlock wanted legumes for spells, but by doing so, he just over obsessed. He's like, can anybody get legumes? And that's how the character talks with a really kind of exaggerated voice. Really, I don't know how my brother does it, but his kind of creepy warlock kind of motif of oh, I need this. Oh, don't wonder why. And so yeah, they pretty much raid this general store that has all sorts of stuff, and they come across some darts. The warrior's like, I want the darts. I don't have any ranged weapons. I'll take the darts. And everybody's like, why would you want metal darts? But these are some really thick, silver throwing darts. So they get up, and at this point, players are still learning kind of where they want these characters to go. Our two rogues aren't characterized yet. These characters, they're very kind of we're very quiet. We're just kind of going along with the party. And this is when the kind of dynamic of how parties start forming. Players that are more active will kind of take charge in where players will go, while the more quiet characters will sit back and kind of just follow along with the story and learn how other people interact until they're more comfortable role-playing. And this is the turning point in the story where these failures that I mentioned start actually becoming important to character development. One of the main things that happens is you're supposed to cross a bridge. Now, the bridge it's kind of arced like this, going from the lower city area to the keep, which has all of the, I think it's a baroness or something like that, and there's a 20-foot jump between the two bridges. I think it's a 10-foot jump from what the map says. So they're supposed to go a vertical jump upwards to get to the top of this bridge. So the group's standing there, everybody's gathered together, and they're like, well, what do we do? And everybody's like, well, thinking, players are kind of talking, some metagaming stuff that I had to quell down, a lot of like, well, you know, what if we just go in there, build a catapult? I'm like, no, there's no way you could do that. So after a while, the warlock steps up and goes, I have an idea. Why don't we use some of my magical expertise to throw the little one across with a rope and climb across? And at this point, the cleric's like, oh, well, that might work. And so the cleric's like, yeah, sure, we can do that. The rogues are like, we can probably try it, but we can also try to like shoot across with a bow or something like that. And the warrior's like, I'm just a warrior, doing my thing. So with that, the gnome tied up, she halfling. I keep calling gnome. Too much Warcraft. Halfling comes up. She's like, all right, I'm ready. I have the rope tied across from me. I got some daggers for grip. Shoot me across. Warlock rolls. He uses gust of wind, which smells completely awful. Everybody around him is just going, oh. And they fling the halfling across at the right angle. She gets up there, no problem. She actually crits, so she kind of like does like a flip, gets over there, ties the rope, perfect. They're like, all right, that works, fantastic. Gnome is known to be halfling's known to be very skillful now, but very quiet. Party's like, okay, that's a good start. How do we continue? So they're like, well, let's all start crawling across. First person that gets across is our female rogue. She's playing I can't remember her race, but we'll nickname this character Jenny. Jenny, her character, crawls across the rope just fine. She's got high, dexterity. She climbs, no problem. Next up is the warlock, my brother's character, and he's like, ooh, I'm gonna go. Starts climbing across, slowly, kind of doing his thing. Fails. So he's hanging there off the rope now. He's like, oh no, I'm gonna die. I don't have enough dexterity. So he's hanging in there. So some of the characters start panicking, and they're like, oh no, what do we do? They're like, shoot. The rogue gets over there, tries to pull him up, gets on the rope. He falls. He nat once, falls into the water. They're like, oh crap, no. So as he's like trying to get across, our cleric, who's like the character, reflexes, tries to save the rogue. Nat ones as well. So he dives to try to catch the guy with his plate armor, slides off, and they start both falling down into the moat below. Now the warlock loses grip, he falls down, and now you have three characters that are standing there, like falling to their deaths into this moat. Two of them go knocked unconscious, and the cleric hits the bank, trying to reflex, and rolls down off the side of this cliff. You have the two female characters sitting up there now going, oh no, what do we do? The halfling's just like, and the rogue's like, well, I probably got to go save her. The warrior's so dumb, he kind of wandered off. He's just like, this is none of my business. Orcs don't care too much about things. He's like, I'm going to go do my own thing over here. Well, now we have two players that are already drowning within the third session. One of them is unconscious. The other one is actually rolling saving throws to see if he's going to live. And then we have a cleric who's like beached up, full plate armor off the side, trying to like get a hold of him, but knocked silly as well, kind of like dizzy. Even worse than being unconscious at that point, because they're like... So the rogue goes, all right, I'm going to swan dive in. Jumps in, nat 20s. Falls in there, and, after a while, they're actually able to get the characters back up and onto the other side of the bridge. A lot of trial and error, but the halfling was able to kind of shoot some arrows, tie them up, get some foundation between the two ropes, and they were able to get across. And so this is when character development started to happen. Certain characters were like, well, I'm a klutz. The cleric is now known to not be good at saving people, but has always got the urge to do so. And then you've got some other characters like the rogue and the halfling, where they're starting to show personality. They're getting into their roles, figuring out, it's like, okay, I'm not going to interfere with all situations, but I'm going to interfere enough to kind of come into the situation. And so the party continues, where they go up to the keep, find out that there are several people alive in the town, And what happened was a group of giants on top of a cloud castle floated in, started bombarding the city with rocks, attacking villagers, and took the Nightstone from the center of the town, creating chaos. People that were in the town, people died, people were injured by the rocks, and so they evacuated out to the forest to the north of the city, to what are they believed to be caves. The 3 guards there also talk about how the leader of the city of Nightstone was crushed by a stray rock at the start of the combat, and now the leader of the town is dead. So they ask the adventurers to help bring the townspeople back and get stability into the town, and clear out any goblins that are still hiding in the city. Because after the town was attacked by goblins, or attacked by giants, goblins came in. Because, of course, they are, because goblins are always the staple, first thing to fight, so they cause havoc wherever they can. Group's like, well, we gotta cross the bridge again, and we really don't want to cross the bridge. And so I had to literally, as a DM, I had to make the guards build a zip line across so they could safely get across without too much plot inconvenience. But this was the first time that the players actually got to take a break and rest. While doing so, our female rogue, Jenny's character, explored the castle, and there is a section of the castle that belonged to the Baroness who passed away by boulder to the face. This is where we come to another failure into success. She failed her detect magical devices, her trap detections, and she just started kind of rummaging through the room. By doing so, she set off one of the few traps that occur so far in the campaign, which is a giant floating sword. If she passed through, this whole encounter wouldn't have happened. But again, bringing more interesting stuff to the story. She's fighting the sword. She's actually like sword fighting, like this invisible sword coming in and attacking her. And then she goes, "Can I grapple check the sword?" And everybody in the town's like, "Why would you want to grapple like that?" She's like, No, I want to go for the hilt. I'm like, that seems like a kind of smart idea. You'll have to have a really high dexterity. She's like, "Bro, I got this." Jenny rolls a crit. She critically succeeds the grabbing the sword. I'm like, she's like, "I got it. I've got it. I got full control over it, but it's still trying to like attack me. If I let go of this thing, it's gonna try to kill me." And I'm like, okay. What do you do? She's like, "I'm gonna take my scabbard and I'm gonna close it in there and I'm gonna tie it up." I'm like, "Do you have rope?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a rogue. I got rope." So yeah, she uses the sword to cut a piece of rope, closes it in there, and then ties this thing into the scabbard. So you got like this magical sword that's like now dormant inside of this like locked hilt. And I'm like, oh my god, she just captured the sword. What am I gonna do? So I'm like, all right, if you let that thing out, it's gonna go after it. She's like, "Oh yeah, I know. We'll be fine. I'm like, all right, fine. I see where this is gonna go. I don't, but I lied. Lying is a key thing as being a DM. So the players finally managed to, with coaxing, leave and finally go back into clearing the city from goblins and looking for any survivors. One of the guards mentioned, because again, trying to force them to go and explore some of the city, that they saw a light inside of the Nightstone Inn, and that's one of the areas that they were first in front of. And they're like, "Go check that out, and then kind of secure any like horses or anything so we can go look for the townsfolk." By doing so, they run across a character. Let's see. Oh, I just opened up her. No! Let's see. Yeah, they come across a character named Kella Darkhope. She's a kind of like roguish character who's disguised as a pilgriming kind of monk. And so I kind of made her a little bit more interesting and kind of made her kind of like a diplomat almost, and going from town to town, kind of seeing what fruits to offer as her pilgrimage comes to a close to see if she wants to be, a monk to any of these towns. She was actually a part of a group of the Flying Snakes, I believe. Let's see what the gang's called here. Where are you? The Seven Snakes. The group is called the Seven Snakes, and they have a marking, kind of not marking, but they have kind of like a clan status where they will have flying snakes wrapped around their arm, and they kind of use them as a messaging service, or if that's what I interpreted in the book. I could be wrong and made something up. So this character, snake around her arm, saying she's some sort of a prophet or kind of pilgrimage. And the town goes in, and they start looking around, and they see her inside of the ruined inn, kind of like on the second floor. And so they approach her, and she's very cautious, and this is another instance of where failure kind of brought out more character for the players. The halfling, and I believe the two rogues, run into her upstairs. And she's like, "Oh, hello, how are you?" And they're like, we're good. What's going on? Why haven't you evacuated with the rest of the people? "Oh, you see, I couldn't leave this place. I got trapped here when the goblins attacked, and when this, like, I just haven't had the guts to leave." And they're like, "Oh, okay, how long have you been here?" She bluff says she's out there 3 days, which kind of matches up with what the guards were saying upstairs. So things are working out. While they're talking, the huntress is going around the ranger. Yeah, she's not a hunter yet. She's like going around and she's like pickpocketing stuff, and she finds like some like dwarven mail. She's kind of like, "That's weird. Why do you have dwarven mail?" She's like, "Oh, it's my room. Don't worry about it." It's like, just, I just took this room over. I don't know what's in here. And they're like, "All right, so put on the dwarven armor. Everything's fine." Doesn't fit her. She's wearing like a big helmet for dwarven armor, and she's like, "Look at me. I'm having fun." And so during investigation, I kept kind of subtly like bringing up inconsistencies with her story. It wasn't just like, just on purposely trying to trip myself up by giving false information over and over again, and based on rolls. And at this point, the warlock kind of comes in, and being a lazy man, starts hitting on her, and she's like, "All right, I gotta get out of here. These people are ambushing me. I just need to buy time so my people can come take over the city." All this stuff. So I'm trying to like get her to not like cozy up too much based on how the story's playing out, but I didn't want her to get too comfortable and become like an NPC, because I wanted to see where the characters took her. The book kind of wants the players to befriend her and befriend her group of bandits and mercenaries, from instead of taking over the city, using it to guard against the threat that comes on later on in the story. Problem is, my players are a bunch of idiots, and they decided that they wanted to get aggressive. So after a little while, they start getting aggressive with her. She throws her snake at one of the players, knocking him out of the top floor onto the bottom floor through a hole made by one of the boulders. The snake attacks his face and then flies away. The halfling looks down, tries to trip her up, but misses. And the second rogue, our female rogue, tackles her and drops her down to the ground. So yeah, let's go back and rename it, because I realize two rogues is very difficult if you're not keeping track now that they're actually in the same place. So we have Jenny's rogue, and then we have Jordan's rogue. Both character names. I'm not going to use real names on this one. So we got Jenny and Jordan. Jenny's rogue is the female, Jordan is the male. And so the male rogue goes down, Jordan's rogue, and then Jenny, she's sitting up there, like fighting with her, and they both kind of fall down onto the first floor. At this point, the warlock is with the warrior in the kitchen, dealing with some goblins and stuff like that, and interrogating one that has been stealing food, and they're just having kind of like a food fight. So they kind of like come out after dealing with the food fight, seeing that one person, or Jordan's character's on his back. Then you have my girlfriend's character, the ranger, and then you have the other two just like decking it out and then falling down as well. At this point, they're like, "All right, we're gonna have to fight her now. We failed. We're gonna have to go into combat." This is where like Three Stooges stuff happens. During combat, the warrior pulls out his Morning Star, raises it to attack her. Nat Ones gets it stuck up on the ceiling. He like throws it up there, and it's stuck up there because Morning Stars are round objects with a bunch of spikes in it. So he kind of throws it up, and now it's just kind of stuck. And he's like, "Well, crap!" So he's trying to get it down. The warlock trying again to seduce her, is using like kind of like, "Hello, come talk to me. I'll protect you." Ignoring him, he Nat Ones, grosses out everybody there, and everybody starts ignoring him. He's like, "Well, fine, screw you guys." The rogues start kind of pulling out their daggers. They kind of start fighting her. Goes one way or another. The ranger takes off her helmet, throws it down at the at the cleric lady and hits her in the head. Doesn't knock her out, but it does some damage. And they're like, well, screw you. So she picks it back up and throws it at the ranger. Crits. She falls down, and with this mail, which is heavier than her at this point, like, flops down. Now she's unconscious on the ground, like, I don't know what to do. And so all chaos breaks out. The cleric has been looking around, working with the guards to kind of secure some other areas, kind of splitting the party. So here's ruckus coming from the inn. Starts heading back, and it ends with the bad guy jumping through stained glass window to avoid the rest of the party, and then running to the front gate, which is kind of like a large portcullis area where there's a drawbridge and like kind of a tower area. And she's like, I'm out, I'm done, you guys are madmen, and like just while doing so, you see the cleric going, just it's like, what happened? What's going on? They go inside, you see everybody in this state of like total madness where one person's like jumping up trying to get their morning star, you have like the halfling on the ground, you have cuts and burns from, the two rogues, and then you've got the warlock who's sulking in the other room eating next to the dead the goblin. And they're like, well, alright, what'd you guys do this time? Because at this point the cleric's like, I can't trust these guys for anything. And they're like, what? She attacked us. And due to some misplaced roles, the cleric starts to distrust the rest of the party. So he's like, I'm done. I'm going to go find her. You guys stay here. We're done for the night. And the warlock goes, well, if you guys are going to be, buddy-buddy and not listen to me, I'm going to go get some treasure. Leaves the inn. The warlock goes to start cutting off ears for a personal collection for like kind of like a belt he's making. So he's building like an ear belt, and they're like, oh no, this isn't good. The party's already splitting up again, and now I have to get everybody back together to start kind of one of the two climaxes of this part of the campaign, which is the bandits coming to the town. So over the next the next session, they kind of are gearing up, and they find out that this group of mercenaries are going to come to help the town, since the monk sent out kind of like a distress message to a passerby trader, presumably the party thinking being the carriage person that dropped him off at the beginning. And so by doing so, they they're like, all right, we're going to open up the drawbridge and we're going to start talking to him. Whew, this is when they start talking to her more. And by doing so, they kind of corner her on the top of the bridge portcullis area, where the drawbridge controls are. And they start talking to her. It's like, so your friends are coming. She's like, yep. Everything's going to be fine. And then over some like kind of persuading and some really bad bluffs on her part, they find out her real intentions of taking over the town. We're like, we're not going to take this. So we're going to tie you up. We're going to put you in the corner. And the warlock is going to use a disguise ability to disguise himself as you. So the party's like, all right, this is going to be a good plan. So what happens is the day comes, they 6 of the 7 bandits, whatever, roll up on horses, and they start calling for their leader's name. What's her name is a leader. Let's find her name again. Let's address characters by name here. I have the references. Kella, they're like, Kella! Miss Kella, we are here. We're ready to take over the town. The gate's open. We'll proceed when you give the signal. And this is by a secondary character called Zolan. And Zolan's like, all right, we're ready to come in whenever you are. Just give us a signal. The warlock comes up and doing a actually decent impression of her, well, with rolls, starts convincing him. It's like, oh, no, we're fine. We're going to just camp out here. Goblins everywhere. Nothing's left. It's not worth taking over the town. And so between the conversation back and forth, everybody else is just kind of sitting there and waiting. And the warlock isn't staying too far away from the group, so he's always on the drawbridge, ready in case they need to pull up and ready to stop. Problem is that Zolan is madly in love with Kella. So he approaches, and with concern and his love for her, he's like, I've missed you like 1,000 years of pain inside of my loins. And the warlock's like, oh, oh, I'm not into this. I'm not into this, causing him to kind of start rolling badly. We kind of did, for role-playing sake, a -2 due to being caught off guard by this. And as he's talking, he's like, honey, it's perfectly okay. Okay. And the disguise starts kind of faltering with nervousness, and the disguise goes away, revealing that it is a old, smelly warlock man instead of his beautiful, blushing lover. Chaos breaks out, because immediately after, they start trying to bring up the drawbridge. And the person stationed would be, obviously, our warrior, since he's a strength-based character. So, in the time, combat starts, and the turns progress where the bandits start getting off their horses and start firing at the portcullis and the kind of drawbridge controls. Well, the warlock is trying to retreat back upstairs, and they're trying to get, like, the town secure. The problem is, as the bridge is going up, the warrior keeps breaking the controls, so it's going, hut, hut, hut. The warlock's, like, holding onto this drawbridge as it's, like, dropping up and down. Like, it's shaking off some guys. They're trying to jump up onto the bridge, but they're, like, flying off. So, for the warlock, he's just like, whee! And people are, like, dropping off and all this stuff. Zolan's, like, on the other side of the bridge, sliding into the city and coming after the group at the top of the tower and the staircase on the portcullis. And at this point, they're like, we need to get this bridge up. What's going on? The ranger just crits and just smoothly, without any hassle, like within like 3 cranks, brings up this drawbridge fully. So now you have a majority of forces on one side of the moat, and then you have the rest of the group on the other. Good for the party. Problem is, you're now at a standoff with their leader in one end at the bottom, and slowly rushing up to attack the rest of the party. He isn't a pushover either. I believe he's like a 3rd level. Yeah, he's a little dangerous. Even with a party of this size, I kind of upped him up because he is supposed to be a threat. Again, keep in mind that they're supposed to befriend these guys for an encounter coming up, where no. And so this group's like, oh no, what do we do? So they start panicking, and they realize that they're going to have to fight. Now, Jenny's character, being a very brash rogue character throughout all of her kind of like cockiness and throughout the campaign, you know, being successful at stuff, she's like, I'm going to pull out my daggers, and I'm going to swan dive from the top of this into the moat. Cleric's like, wait, what? She jumps. 1. She slips on the descent, and she's gonna fall. Cleric goes, gotta save her. Reflex. 1. So now we have 2 characters falling off the parapet down into the moat. 2 characters now unconscious on the other side of a protective wall, surrounded by bad guys in the moat. I'm sitting here like, oh my god, these guys can't even get past the first chapter of this book, and they're gonna die by doing stupid stuff like this. So I have all of the bad guys surround them throughout the pit, and one of them goes inside of the water to rescue him. Luckily enough, though, neither of them died, and they just took a lot of fall damage on the way down. They're very, very weak, they're bloody, they're bruised, but they're not dead, no broken bones, because they still landed in water, so it could have been a lot worse. The group on top is now bombarding them with arrows. Well, the ranger is. The orc warrior, on the other hand, is throwing darts at them. Now, he occasionally used these against the goblins and picked them up, and it became a running joke, but this is when they really started kind of to show their potential. He would start like by dropping one at a time, like kind of like just down at the enemies that were on both sides of the gate, kind of like lobbing them, not even like throwing them very far because his dexterity was really bad, so he would just kind of like drop them. And so he's dropping these like darts into the heads of some of these bandits, while the other the halflings, you know, using their bow and kind of taking them out the best they can. So they're doing a good job fighting, but they now have their friends as hostages throughout the course of battle. The warlock is, one-on-oneing against the bad guy, which he's not doing so well. He's getting like knocked around, like, kind of like backhanded, because casters versus someone who can do close range, close combat, like, they have penalties against. So he's like, oh no, I'm running out of spells, getting my ass kicked. So it's not looking good for the players. But the cleric is able to convince them to lower the gate. And the gate lowers down. The hostages are on one side of the bridge, and the warlock is now kind of positioned where he's in front of the bridge with the leader, and he's like, "Give me my give me my love. We will give you the hostages, and then we're going to take this town." And they're like, "All right, what do we do?" But in doing so, the bandit guy doesn't realize that my players are homicidal maniacs. The second rogue, Jordan's character, kills Kella and throws her off into the moat. Zolan doesn't take that very well and runs to her rescue. It's a beautiful sight, except for he lined himself up perfectly to be shot by a gust of wind by the warlock. The warlock knocking him and the entire party of bandits into the boat with the cleric and Jenny's rogue. So you have everybody in kind of like this Captain Crunch soup bowl of just people inside of this really gross, grummy moat. And the other party members are like, well, what do we do? It's like, well, we got to go get him out. They rush down the stairs, and they're now kind of on the outside of this bridge, outside of the safety of Nightstone, all except our ranger, who is now still keeping an eye on the controls to lower and open the bridge whenever they can. She's up there, and she's kind of like firing into the water, trying to pick off anybody they can, but the cleric's like, no, we must save them, we must bargain to help them in need, and do what we can to protect them. Jenny's character, on the other hand, wants revenge. So you have a group of people trying all at once to get out of the water as the cleric is kind of like climbing out, grabbing a rope, and he's like trying to bring people to safety. And our rogue, who is not very happy. She goes, all right, is there anybody near me? I'm like, yeah, there's some people within like arm's reach. She's like, okay, grapple check. And I'm like, okay. She succeeds. Grapple check. I'm like, all right, what do you do? She's like, I'm going to hold him underwater. Jesus. Oh, okay. Your character is slowly, quietly. She's like, stealth check. Stealth. All right. Your stealth as well. She's like, I'm going to quietly hold him underwater for as long as I can with me. And if he keeps moving, I'm going to slit his throat. And I'm like, okay. And then I roll his strength check, closest thing I think to like how long he can hold his breath. He's not having a good time. It's like, all right, he's going to kind of like try to struggle, get out of there. She's like, no. Shh. Do I see bubbles? And I roll again. He drowned. Nat 1 on that one. And so he panics, inhales water, and is drowning. She holds him down, slowly lets the body float in the water, and then slowly stealth rises back up. Deadly silent. Is anybody in grapple range? There's some heading towards the rope held by the cleric. She's like, grapple check. Rolls again, crits. Grapple, stealth, slowly drags him underwater, holding him down. Now, the only other people that see this is the quiet ranger up top and the warlock. Both of them are neutral to evil characters, so they're like, whatever, we don't care about them. You have the warrior and the cleric both trying to pull people out, and so she does this to 7. I don't know how I managed to lose that many in a row, but she pulls down 7 of these people, and she's slowly cackling to herself the entire time. Like the player, Jenny, she was just like, again. Again. So, over time, more and more people slowly die a horrible death to this rogue. It ends up with the cleric finally realizing it when he's pulling up one person onto the bridge. He's about halfway up. He's like, thank you, I'm so sorry about that, like, no hard feelings, right? And he's like, oh, Blessed be upon you, my dragon god will shine. You see two hands grab from underneath the bridge and just strength check against this these two. So the warrior fighter and the cleric are both holding on. Both strength-based characters just like holding on, but they fail. They both look like one crit fails and the other one gets really low. So he slips out of his hand screaming, just, no! Goes underwater. All they see are bubbles, some red, and then Jenny's rogue slowly emerge from the water with this just shit-eating grin. Just, well, there goes the bandits with a perfect grin and smile. And they're like, oh my god, you're evil. You're like some sort of shark. She's like, I'm a Moake Shark. And so the group just silently just like looks at her and like, Moake Shark. Moake, all right, that is now your name. You are now the Moake Shark because you are a silent killer with the grin of an evil shark. So like, all right, we're gonna adopt this name. This group's like, yeah, that's perfect. We're gonna roll with it. So we now have Moake Shark, and we have the rest of the party. They gather up and they're like, well, we just killed everybody except for their leader, and he's tied up. What do we do with him? The quiet halfling just goes, can we put him on a bonfire? The warrior goes, no. You know what? Yeah, that seems like a good idea. Why don't we put him in a bonfire? I'm sitting here reading into what the game wants me to do. And just, oh God, yeah, go ahead. Go for it. Put him on a bonfire. Like, we just want to interrogate him. We just want to interrogate. I'm like, fine. So they find out, the story of the seven snakes and all that stuff. And as they're doing so, they hear a marching warband of orcs coming to take over Nightstone from the north. These players just can't catch a break. They haven't been able to rest, and there's already another confrontation coming from the mountains down into right in front of them to take over the city. So they're like, whoa, all right, what are we going to do? The half-orc goes, I'm going to negotiate with them. Those are my people. Even though I'm a half-orc, I'm a very honorable man, and I know how to play towards my strengths. I'm going to convince them to work with us. Protect this town. And I'm like, all right. They're going to actually try diplomacy for once. Very interesting. The rest of the party's like, okay, we're going to roll up the bridge, and then we're going to have you go out there and kind of talk to them orc on orc. They're like, fine. They go up, and the halfling rolls up the gate. It's like, let's give it a go. Warband comes up, and their orc leader, let's see, what's his name here? He's not a vulture, not an orc. Let's see. Gurash. Gurash approaches with his warband and goes, we are the Eye of Gurash. Wait, no, that's not the, what's the name? What's the name of this band? Guess they don't have a name. Gurash's warband, essentially. And he goes up and he's like, we are going to take Nightstone for my people. We need a new home to protect ourselves from the elves. We are the orcs. The elves. And so, standing on the other side is our orc, and he goes, I am Honto. You must declare safety to this passage, and we can negotiate. And the orc guy goes, what? Safety? I kind of roll a check, and he's like, okay. We declare safety. And he's like, but we must kill every human inside. He's like, no can do. Sorry, this town is under my protection. We can't do that. He's like, well, I guess we cannot negotiate. He's like, well, how about this? How about we have a Makara? You bring your mightiest warrior, and I'll bring mine into a one-on-one combat to the death. If your hero wins, we will leave this town alone and bring it under our orc protection. But if we win, we will take this town, rape your women, and slaughter any humanoid that lives in the name of Gurok. And the rest of the party's like, oh no, what do we do? I think we can take him. Where he goes, I accept your challenge of Makara. 1-on-1, man-on-man. 2 hours to prepare. The rest of the party's like, oh no. What do we do? They're like, well, where are they holding the Makara? Find out that it's actually going to be like just on the other side of like this hill, far enough away where anybody inside of the town won't be able to give direct like range feedback, just able to watch from a distance. They're like, well, who's going to fight? Warlock goes, I'm out of spells. I can't do anything. 2 rogues are like, 1-on-1 combat direct like that, that's out of our league. Hunter just kind of shrugs, goes, ranged, nothing I can do. Cleric goes, I am a person of the world. I cannot fight in direct combat like that unless it's to protect someone, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. Everybody's like, well, you're an orc. It's your tradition. Go fight. He's like, alright. We're gonna go fight. Go in, and inside of this pit, Gurok is sitting there kind of on like a makeshift throne of wood, and his entire people circling. He's like, I will bring out my champion. The champion is 2 levels higher than the player. And our warrior didn't stand a chance. The fight starts. Goes in, he's like, I'm going to swing and attack. Misses. Enemy orc, I'm going to use my spear and I'm going to jab forward. Crits. Deals double damage. He's alive due to some, having just enough hit points. He's like, alright, I'm going to swing again. Hits, doesn't do enough. Kind of like, I think I described it like hitting him in like the side with his Morning Star. And holding up his shield. Trying to like keep back any punches while he's trying to pull out the stab, like right here. As he does so, he's like, the orc guy pushes in and twists, counting as, I think I counted it as like a half attack, but it was just enough to kill him. The orc warrior goes down in probably one of the most heroic and selfless acts I could probably imagine in any of my campaigns, dying to protect the city with as little people dying as possible, but doing it in such a way that no one knew how powerful this other orc is. And again, failure becomes great story success. By doing so, we lost a character, and I think this is the first time I lost a character in years. I lost some characters way back in the day, but this is the first time since I've been really DMing 5th edition that a character has died. And not just died and brought back, but died in an honorable way, never to return. So the party watches the death of this orc guy, and all the other orcs go into a blood rage. They're like, we're taking the city! And everybody's like, oh no, what do we do? What do we do now? We're running out of resources. There's only 4 of us. If our warrior couldn't take him on, how can we? So the group starts trying to lock up the city, but by doing so, the ranger nat 1s, and the gates fall open. The orcs rush in, bringing pure chaos. Attacking, burning every city, burning everything they could. They're trying to burn the bridge to keep them across, when suddenly plot convenience happens. And I'm going to read this out of the book, because I think this is probably they knew players would end up at this point. Alright, we'll get here. If the characters are in danger of being overwhelmed by the orc chief Gurash and his bloodthirsty orcs, 8 elves of the Aspect Forks, male and female, arrive from the north to assist them. The leader of the band of daring wood elves, named Rond Arrowhome, he and his fellow elves have no love or respect for the residents of Nightstone, but they hate the orcs more. Once the orcs are defeated, Rond yells out, "You're welcome!" and rides off into the sunset. So I had to use a contingency in case players were going to die to this. So not only were they not able to befriend the characters intended to, but they were unable to befriend the people that they had the chance to. This is probably where we're going to leave off the story, because there's still many shenanigans, but you can kind of see how failure became success for the party. not only in a storytelling sense, but more of a gameplay aspect. The players use these disadvantages to continue the story, to motivate themselves, and kind of build character. Most of the characters didn't have a story point. I think one or two characters had an overall goal. The cleric wanted to be as noble as possible, but be kind of a dragonkin cleric who's kind of shunned. Became a person who always tries to help, but ends up hurting themselves in return and failing horribly. You've got the warlock, who is very charismatic, but smells bad and kind of has kind of a weird kind of niche to him. Our ranger learns that they're very proficient, kind of the quite unsung hero of the group, being able to do a lot of skills when the team needs to, but not volunteer. You have the orc warrior who, due to circumstances, died a hero, died how an orc should, one-on-one in combat, protecting the thing that he cares most about, which would have been the party, the people of the city, and Nightstone itself. The two rogues over time started to gain more personality as well, more or less. We didn't really talk about Jordan's character, but he's still growing out of his shell. He's definitely one that definitely can improve on being more RP related. He's very technical. But then we have Jenny's character, the Moake Shark. If she didn't fail, she wouldn't have been in that moat. If she wasn't in that moat, she wouldn't have taken out a single band of bandits with her bare hands by drowning them. So it's one of those things where stories can come in the weirdest moments. Embracing the failure, embracing how much a fail can be. A lot of people take failure as an instant death, but if you're a good DM and you want to roll with have the fun, don't just be like, they stabbed and took damage. Dude, find a way to kind of engage them more into the story. If players are talking to some guards, they say that they've stolen something, or they blunder, or something falls out of their pocket, something that can bring more of a role-playing aspect to it, because that is where the failure can become a success for players if necessary. And I think this group really shined in, okay, failure, but yet I still tell the story about the bridges and how the players killed a bunch of bandits because one person was really stealthy and found a fun way to recover from swan diving off the top of this building. And there's many more stories. I probably forgot a bunch of stuff, and my friends are probably going to get mad at me, but that's the core element I wanted to get across, is just embrace it. Go with it. Roll with it. If you're a player, bring that into your character. If you're a DM, try to use that as an experience, not to just punish the player, but bring out more aspects to them. Bring out the reason why the players need to do what they need to do. Encourage creativity using failure. And that's something that I've definitely learned through this campaign and wanted to tell the story. I've been trying to record this one for so long because it's such a long story, but I definitely feel that it's a good story. Definitely a good moment. Now, hopefully we can get through this book, because we are 30 pages in outside of a 300-page book. So we'll see where this adventure takes them. I'm hoping for the best, and probably more failure will occur, which will bring a lot of good laughs and a lot of good fun. If you like this story, if you like this series, please let me know. I have many more stories that I want to tell, and if you like the format, suggestions, comments, please let me know in the comments down below. I really want more info for you. And as always, I have been your humble storyteller, Campter. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next time.